Hello, everybody. So we are starting our first real project, not a warm-up project. This is the how they say it, the big show. Our first real project, and we talked about art strategies with the first warm-up project. And the strategy for this project, all of the projects have a strategy. The strategy will be truth to materials, which in this case means turning decomposed rock back into rock and landscape. So I have two different demos for this project. One is on pinching and shaping the rocks. And then the second demo will be on how to do surface design on the rocks. So make sure you catch both of those demos, please. One at a time first. You may want to make your rocks first, or you have to, in order to put surface design on them. So you want to see that, but then you might want to cover them up in plastic so they stay, soft for the surface design stuff, which I go into detail how to do. This talk will be a little bit more about just sort of inspiring you about geology and rocks. And before I do that, again, the main strategy is truth of materials. We're making rocks out of decomposed rock. However, your rocks could turn into something else. They can turn into animals. They can turn into Mr. Potato Heads, or they can turn into a bust of the head. They can turn into really anything. They can be planets or cityscapes or landscapes or kind of. It's very open. So you can discover kind of a sub strategy about, or you just make a rock. Rocks are cool. Rocks are very cool, and maybe this will sensitize you to how individual and cool rocks can be. So what I wanted to do today was to give you some visual images of different kinds of rocks and rock groupings that might inspire you for what you'd like to do. The rock could become a narrative too, like you could write your life story on it, just write it out. So many possibilities. So anyway, let me share a screen and I'll see if I can kind of inspire you. Actually, let me get some of these other things out of the background. Okay, share screen. Huh. 1 second here. Oh no, I do want to be there, I think. Sorry. No, I don't want that. Here we go, rocks. Is this it? Sorry about that. Here we go. So I'm going to start here, down to here. Oops. Get this a little bit bigger. Some of these are kind of small. So these are actually rock groupings. I kind of want to I want to start back from that. Sorry, doggone it. Being very, very disorganized here. Here we go, rock and rock limestone. Okay, now we're cooking with gas. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, so this is fossils. As you know, clay is very impressionable, so things can make marks. And if you fire it, these rocks can last 10,000 years. So any finger mark you put in there becomes a fossil. Any kind of stamp, any kind of marking becomes like a fossil. There are agates and geodes that you can make. You can add crystals inside. You can make a half of a rock and make something like that. Here's another sample of, let me go a little bit bigger on that guy, of another fossil. You can make up your own imaginary fossils. These are actually fossils. The earth is striated in layers. We don't have colors. Unfortunately, we don't have colored slips to put on our rocks. That would be a really nice thing, but we don't have that. However, you can paint them. If you fire them, that will come off, but you could paint them. You could fire them and then paint them. Crystals are really cool because some of them are very geometrical. I mean, literally like squares and stuff. The surface of your rock can crack. You can rub colorants into the crack. Again, crystals. This is very bulbous. This is a what's that not balsamic, there's a volcanic rock, balsam, something like that. Anyway, there, look at that one. Very, very geometric. Crystals, striations, crystals. Look at the textures on these volcanic rocks. So you can really play with texture when we get to that too. You can stamp texture into it. Okay, so that was the first thing. The next things are suseki. And suseki are Japanese viewing stones. Oops. Just like this. Japanese viewing stones are like, how would you call that? Bonsai trees, where they make small little, you've seen bonsai trees, small little trees that look like huge trees that they'll cultivate, Japanese cultivate them. They have the same thing with rocks. They'll find small little rocks. This is very small. Doesn't look like it, but it's really small. And they make, and they'll make them look like, but they look like big rocks. Here's a sample of one. It looks like a mountain landscape, but look how little it is. I made my own rocks. These are actually very big. This one's about 2.5 feet wide and about 2 feet tall, 2.5 feet tall. So this is an installation of rocks that I made. So I make a lot of rocks. Here's another small suseki one. Another very small one, looks like a mountain range. And then I did a whole series called American Viewing Stones. And these are all very small things. A lot of this I found in our slop bucket, like, you know, people threw stuff away and it had textures on it that you wouldn't be able to contrive if you tried. But anyway, and I, you know, did various colorants on them and set them up as small little viewing stones. This was actually some pieces that exploded in the kiln, and then I painted them nicely. Okay, so viewing stones, small rocks that look like larger things. Rock stackings, if you made a lot of rocks, which you're welcome to, you could stack them in certain ways. You've probably seen these in different places on the beach and stuff. Andy Goldsworthy is called an earth artist, and he's one of the original rock stackers. So these are all balanced. The thing is, with clay, you can cheat. You can score and slip them together so they can stick together. Sort of a fun way of working. This is a sort of a rock installation. Andy Goldsworthy again, and these are darker because they were on the part that was in the ground. This is the part that was facing up and getting dried out and oxidized. So that's how it gets these different colors. Rock stacking. Don't want to be standing there. Rock grouping. That's a beautiful one. So in other words, you can make individual rocks or they can relate to each other as a stacking. That's quite lovely. An arch made out of these. Okay, and then earth art. I don't have a lot of great samples of earth art, and earth art is beautiful, but I have some. And again, we're just like thinking about landscape now a little bit as opposed to rocks maybe. So this is slate. It was put into a collage. This is like a big, huge chia mound of dirt. Again, slate put into an installation. Earth art. Earth art is using materials from the earth to go in and it can be leaves, it can be anything to make art. They use logs for these and then weaving shrubbery type stuff. Yeah. Let me go a little bit bigger on this one. You see it better. Richard Long is a guy who would collect rocks he'd do very long walks. He'd collect rocks and then he'd sort of portray these rocks as sort of a journal entry, a visual journal of his walks. And he would also put up little markers on his walks along the way. Markers are a very fun way of working and using rocks as markers markers can be gravestones. They can mark rites of passage. They can mark many different things. This is one of the original earthworks, spiral jetty in Salt Lake near Utah, Salt Lake City. These logs were cut and assembled. Okay. And I think that's good for, geological formations. Wait a moment here, we got this. What's this one? Very, very organic and very natural. That's very much relating to landscape. But these are not made out of pinched rocks, which we'll be doing. Again, I'm just trying to give you ideas. Look at the rhythm of that texture. This is sand dunes. It's like water, actually. Formations, geological formations. So you can see how water cuts through rock. You can see the texture of that. I've showed a picture like this before of the erosion patterns. This is in Utah. And again, visual rhythm. See where it's kind of it gets wider here and thinner over here. So it goes like that. You know, does that kind of a thing. It has that movement. Looking in through one geological formation into another is sort of interesting. And is that it? Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to talk about texture and rhythm later. I just want to start. Yeah, I'll start. I think well, let's see, class. We can't have class on Monday because of Labor Day, so probably Wednesday, but maybe I'll show you some texture things on Wednesday, Tuesday for sure. And anyway, so that gives you some ideas about rocks. Please, again, look at the 2 videos. The way we're going to make our rocks is we're going to pinch out 2 halves. So think of 2 bowls and leave them thick, about a ½ inch thick, maybe about like that. You don't have to finesse it. They can be kind of sloppy. I talk about it in the video. But then you put the 2 halves together and that'll make it sort of a potato. And then from there you can shape it. And then from there you can put texture on it. And I show you different ways of doing texture in the second video. So please watch those 2 videos and feel free to go into Pinterest or any other, you can Google rocks, you can Google rock formations, anything to find some inspiration for you. And when you can Google landscape, you can Google cityscapes. It can be an aerial view of the earth. I don't care. Okay. Anyway, so that's all I have to say. Sorry for being a little discombobulated there at the beginning. And have fun. We have time. We've got about I think like a week and a half. Usually I give 3 classes per bigger project. Okay. Thank you. See you later.